do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they say there. Up, down, up, down. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Radio, 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 radio.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
The human drama of athletic competition.
It's the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 radio at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. on the East Coast. You can contact us toll-free at 1-877-297-8022. You can tweet us at CANUSASD. And also the chat room is there at www.canusasd.com. I want to remind you that all of the podcasts can be found on iTunes. And if you are listening to the podcast, be sure to join us every Saturday morning at 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern here on the 405 radio. We've got a couple of guests lined up this morning. Derek will be talking to Buffalo Bills and NFL draft hopeful Willie Moseley Jr., Buffalo Bulls, excuse me. He's not in the NFL yet.
Yeah.
They'll talk about Revis Island moving to the Gulf Coast in Tampa, Kobe Bryant's tweeting habits, of all things, Josh Hamilton no longer being asked to hit cleanup in Anaheim. I didn't know that, and I'm a homie, and more. So anyway, let's say good morning to, from Florida, although he is usually in Toronto, Ontario, Derek Marquez.
Good morning, John. How's it going?
Doing great, man.
So, as you know, as a Packer fan, how do you feel about Aaron Rodgers' is a big deal that he signed yesterday? You know, is he going to give a little bit to the Packer fans because he's going to have a lot of money next year?
Yeah, I think he does give a lot to the Packer fans. Green Bay, Wisconsin is a small town. There's not much else going on up there, so they pretty much, live for those preseason and 8 home games. Best comment I saw when I read the article last night, a guy said he was sitting at a eatery. It's called 812, which is owned by Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Braun. He said he saw a guy sitting across the bar at happy hour with a Milwaukee Brewers hat on. He looked like $1 million. And well, then again, he looked like $110 million. So go get him. Best comment I read.
Well, I hope Aaron Rodgers stays away from Ryan Braun and his other extracurricular
Oh, I know what you're thinking. Yeah.
That would be money poorly spent if that happened. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is that kind of person. And there's never any rumblings around Aaron Rodgers and steroids. The S word, as there is Ryan Braun, and constantly his name coming up with the use of steroids. But I was quite surprised to see the amount of money that he's getting. That's a lot of coin, especially in year one. I think I read he was getting $40 million in the first year of his contract. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. They've got the revenue sharing working in the NFL right now, and I think that is probably the one thing that makes parity very much attainable as far as signing and drafting. And the reason why you don't see a lot of dynasties in football anymore, it's easy to go out and pay the talent that you have to, and why baseball perennially seems to have the same people at the top of the divisions. That's a big difference between those two sports.
Oh, I agree. I think the NFL does a great job for parity. There's always going to be those Patriots, those teams that have little runs going on. Patriots runs pretty long, but the Packers are in a run right now. But just a couple of years ago, after Brett Favre left, they didn't miss the playoffs a couple of years. It did take a while for them to get back there. And then there's teams like my Bills that have still kind of on the reverse end of making the playoffs since it's been since the Music City Miracle when Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie was the quarterback duo of Buffalo last time they made the playoffs. So it's interesting how that kind of goes back and forth. But I think Aaron Rodgers is a big part of the Packers. They could not afford to let him go, and unfortunately they had to pay to keep him. Would have liked to see Aaron give him a kind of hometown discount because that's a lot of coin. but I'm not sure. They spend so much money on one player. How is that going to affect the cap space?
Well, exactly, and frankly, the offensive line is questionable still at this point. And I think, Tom Brady, if we can sort of follow his lead, decided he was going to take less money so that the team could spend more money in some other places. So, there's sort of an example there of where, you take one for the team. Maybe the weakness of that offensive line gets him thinking, I don't know how long I'm going to play. I'm going to get knocked down a lot until things change. And so, I'm going to do what's best for me in the short run here.
Personally, I know we're going to talk about the NFL draft when Willie calls on, but I do like the pick they made yesterday of Lacey from Alabama. I think that will help Aaron Rodgers a lot, especially the running game. They have to put, like they mentioned on ESPN, an oversized fullback in short yardage play, because if Lacey can run like he did Alabama for Green Bay, it'll be huge.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to, figure out why, Aaron would pay, would ask for that kind of money. That's where it just boggles me. He doesn't seem like the person that is about the money. I guess at the end of the day, we mentioned, I was funny when I read the deal. The first thing I thought about was the tax guy we had on a few weeks ago. About the amount of money.
I get questions about him all the time.
Yeah.
People want to hear that interview. He was great, and we got to get him back on again.
Yeah, especially thinking about how much of that money.
Robert
is Raiola.
Going.
Yeah, that was it. And I believe. Do you have his Twitter handle for people who are listening in?
It was something like Sports Money Guy, something or other. Anyway, we have a caller on. So, who is this, and where are you calling from?
It's Willie
Moseley.
Oh, it is. Okay.
How you doing?
All right, let's get to it. Let's read his bio for you here. He is a Richmond, Virginia native, 40 tackles, 5 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss as a defensive starter his senior year of high school. Moseley also played tight end that year, bringing 3 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. And these stats earned him a second-team All-District honors as defensive end, an honorable mention All-District at tight end position. After a solid high school career, he committed to play for the University of Buffalo, where he was redshirted his first year and played the next 3 as a versatile defensive and special teams asset. In his senior year at UB, Moseley has 70 tackles, 6 QB pressures, 8 tackles for a loss, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, and a blocked punt. Willie's adaptability, size, speed, and experience in multiple defensive positions, making him an impressive weapon in any NFL team, and will certainly reap the rewards of his never-let-up powerhouse attitude, Derek Marquez.
So, Willie, thanks for coming on. I know we're having some technical difficulty there getting you on earlier, but glad you're able to call in. So, first thing I want to ask you is, now that your playing career is over at the University of Buffalo, what was your experience like? It wasn't kind of the biggest school, but I'm from Toronto, so I get a lot of information from the Buffalo Bills and the University of Buffalo. But what was your experience at Buffalo?
Experience at Buffalo was good. This was a good time for me to come in and build a lot of relationships, with a lot of people that I'll remember for the rest of my life. So that's basically what I took from the city of Buffalo and just attending the university.
And what's your best memory of being a Bull on the field?
Best memory of being a Bull, I'm about to say my freshman year in 2008. We took the MAC championship home that year. And that team, that was the closest team I've ever been on. So that would be my best memory as a Bull.
Yeah, in recent years, I think that was the most media exposure that I was exposed to in Buffalo was that year you guys had there. But, being to Buffalo a few times, what was your favorite thing to do in Buffalo?
Yeah, being to Buffalo, the food spots. I love to eat. So if I could find a little hole in the wall spot with some good food, I'm good.
If you had to change one part of your game to transition in the NFL, what do you think it needs to be?
If I had to choose, I would say film study. Knowing the tendencies and what teams like to run on certain down and distances, that's the X factor for a lot of linebackers at the next level. So I would say film study.
Mm-hmm. So what has this whole draft experience been for you? Like, what have you had to do? Did you go to pro day? Kind of, what has the draft been for Willie Moseley Jr.?
Draft for me, just a blessing. I've just been taking it in and just learning to get better each and every day. Not just on the field, but off the field as well. Just with my character and stuff like that. And I've been taking the time to train with John Offer at Performance, one of the best in Western New York, and been working alongside guys like Naaman Roosevelt, playing for Toronto Organized, and Stephen Means. which is also a 2013 prospect in this year's draft. So just getting better every day and just taking the time and getting better. That's it. You know.
Have you had any workouts for any team specifically?
No workouts specifically. A lot of phone calls, though. A lot of phone calls.
So would you feel at home if you got the call from Buddy Nix in Buffalo?
I also right at home. The Buffalo fans are great. You know what I'm saying? They're at every game, rain, sleet, or snow. So I'm pretty sure they'll have me feeling comfortable, you know, right in the city of Buffalo.
So, Buddy Nix, if you're listening, the Bills' ticket back into the playoffs is Willie Moseley Jr.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, there's always been rumblings that if you were to get drafted, it's going to be on Saturday, you know, between rounds 4 to 7. How do you plan on, you know, experiencing the draft today? Are you going to be sitting in front of the TV? You're going to try and keep yourself busy, you know, waiting for the call? You know, what's Willie Moseley's Saturday plan today?
Well, yeah, as of right now, I'm at my grandmother's. Got to come see her. I'm with my daughter. I'm coming to pick her up. We're going to have our little daddy-daughter day. So I'm going to take that time and spend with her. You know what I'm saying? This is a good time to, you know, just kind of just take it all in and just take it as a blessing, you know? Because without God, I wouldn't be here. So I'm going to spend this time with my family and just get closer with them.
Yeah, because watching round 1 in Geno Smith in the green room, just looking at his phone, I don't know what I would be able to do if I were you, kind of waiting today over, it could be anywhere from the 4th round to the 7th round. That's a lot of hours of just kind of waiting intense. So I would try and keep myself busy and not try and sit myself, you know, in front of the TV, because it can get stressful, and, you know, it's at one point you can get mixed emotions on, oh, I'm coming up next, oh, I'm not going to get drafted. So it's best to keep yourself busy. And, you know, when that phone call comes, the best stories I've heard of, usually from baseball players, is, you know, they don't expect to be drafted and they check their phone and they find out they're drafted and they have a bunch of texts after it. So, you know, it's always best to keep yourself busy. But if you were to compare to yourself with one NFL player that's in the game today, who would it be?
Honestly, I really can't. Because the game, you know what I'm saying, the NFL game is evolving. And so is the inside linebacker position. So, you know what I'm saying, it's a lot of guys who are more taller, more athletic, faster guys at the inside linebacker position now. Like, look at Alec Ogletree. Mm-hmm. You know, so you can't really compare him to any other inside linebacker. You're just saying he's a converted safety. But he can move and he can go out and he can check those number 2 receivers and those taller, more athletic tight ends that they're bringing into the NFL these days. So, you know what I'm saying, they used to call it a mismatch. You know, now that's no longer a mismatch, you know.
Since you are such a kind of diverse player, is there another position that you could transition to in the NFL?
I like outside linebacker as well. I mean, a lot of guys, I mean, they've seen it, but I like the rest of the passer. So outside linebacker would be another position.
You're a linebacker, you know, pretty much inside or outside, you'd be able to play both positions.
Yes, sir.
So what do you like to do? You know, I probably know the answer to this question. I think you just answered it. But what do you like to do to get away from the game of football?
To get away from the game, I actually like to take time to read the Bible. You know, on top of, you know, getting away. And when I do get a chance to see my family, but, you know, I'm out in Buffalo and I'm away from them. So to get away, I like to take the time to read the Bible, take notes, jot down scriptures, and just get closer to the Lord. Because without Him, you know what I'm saying, none of this would be possible. So I just give a lot of thanks to Him.
Well, in the cold days of Buffalo with that snow, you can read a lot of the Bible.
Yes, a lot.
There's a lot of Bible reading in the winters of Buffalo, especially, you know, when the snowstorm comes off the lake effect.
Yeah.
An interesting question for you. If you were a baseball player, what would your walk-up song be when you're going up to plate?
If I was a baseball player and I was walking up to base, I like to get hyped. I would like to say "Nuck If You Buck" by Crime Mob. I like to get hyped. So, you know what I'm saying? That's number 1 on my iPod as far as going into the football game. So I like to get hyped and get energetic. So I would have to say that.
So no, like Blake Shelton, Little Country?
A little bit of that too. I can listen to it.
A little mix it up now and again.
It's diversity, you know what I'm saying? I'm diverse everywhere.
Now, what's your most embarrassing song on your playlist?
Ooh, most embarrassing? I don't really know the name, but it kind of goes like, tonight.
I think that's fun.
We are young. You know that song?
I think it's fun, but I could be wrong on it. But it's funny because everyone always has an embarrassing song. You know, we all have one.
Yeah, I cut it on and I turn it up loud, man. I like that song a lot, though.
So John just confirmed it is fun. We are young. So there you go. We're pretty good. So John, is it time for a break there before we get into the NFL draft with Willie? Because we can talk for a while for that one.
Yeah, let's do it. 877-297-8022, CANUSA Sports Desk, right here on the 405 Radio.
You're on the 405.
What do boaters and good swimmers say about life jackets?
I'm a good swimmer.
But I'm not a good swimmer in cold water.
When I'm thrown overboard by surprise. When I'm scared.
Or I'm hurt. Or if I have a throat full of water.
I'm a good swimmer.
But I'm not a good swimmer when I don't know which way is up.
I'm not a good swimmer for long distances.
Sure, everyone's a good swimmer for a quick dip, but boating accidents swap control for chaos in a split second.
I'm not a good swimmer
when my legs are tired.
When my legs are cramping.
Wearing shoes and jeans.
If I've been drinking. I'm not a good swimmer
when it's dark.
Tangled in fishing line.
Or in strong currents.
Are you really a good swimmer? Are you good enough to admit the truth?
I'm a good swimmer.
But not if I'm mad.
And trying to grab all the things I've lost.
When I'm by myself and wish I wasn't.
People say, oh, I'm a good swimmer. I don't need a life jacket.
Well,
you need a life jacket.
You do need a life jacket.
Life jackets. They don't work if you don't wear them.
Hey sports fans, this is Derek Marquez.
And Frank Nutt from the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio.
Just a reminder to check out our live shows on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific.
And CANUSA Sports Desk post-game show, which airs following the Sunday Night Football game and after any other big sport event.
Check us out on iTunes and download our podcasts of any of our old shows that you've missed.
CANUSA Sports Desk and CANUSA Sports Desk post-game show are available for download shortly after we air.
Check us out on our website at www.canusasd.com. That's CANUSASD.com for our latest blogs.
And you can also follow us on Twitter at CANUSASD for your up-to-date latest sports info and tweets for our upcoming shows.
This is Paul Stanley from KISS for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. Some of us work months producing a CD, but in less time than it takes to play it, someone will be killed in an alcohol-related crash. So please don't drive when you've been drinking. Plan ahead. Arrange a designated driver. Remember, friends don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Here at the Weekend 405, we like to get beachy and mellow out.
Look at the big Bob Marley.
We know you listen to escape the harsh realities of the work week.
It's a little harsh.
Wash the weekend down with the 405.
The cannibal!
You're on the 405.
It's the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio. You want to reach us on the telephone. It is 877-297-8022. And we like to check in from time to time and see where our listeners are and give them a shout-out. Jacksonville, Florida, Tampa, Florida. We have some listeners on the West Coast in Los Angeles, California. Orange Park, Florida, Lexington, Kentucky, Waterloo, Iowa, all checking in with the CANUSA Sports Desk here on the 405 Radio. So let us send it back to Derek Marquez.
So, Willie, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were of Thursday's first round of the NFL draft. Any surprises, any kind of expectations? I know there's a few picks. For me, I was quite surprised on the players that were taken and where, and how offensive tackle heavy this top part of the draft was. What was your opinion of the first round of the draft?
A lot of people say it's surprising, but I kind of thought it was safe. A lot of teams with guys that would do great in their system. You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys were confused about the E.J. Manuel pickup, but I kind of like E.J., fitting in with Buffalo and just his youth and what he can bring to the table for the quarterback. So, I think a lot of the picks in the first round were kind of safe.
Yeah, I think, I agree with E.J. Manuel. I talked about it last week. Being a Florida State fan, I saw E.J. for the past 4 years, and now being a Bills fan, I get to watch him for a few more years. And I think we talked about it last week with Rashad Ross, where, everyone's talking about Matt Barkley and Geno Smith, but don't forget about E.J. Manuel, and he could be a better pro quarterback than college quarterback, because Florida State used him a lot as an option quarterback, and I felt he didn't throw the ball enough for the arm that he has. So in Buffalo, I think he can really show off his arm that he has and, not use the option as much in the NFL game. But I'm just worried about, whenever you have a warm weather quarterback going up to Buffalo in the winters of Buffalo, how he's going to handle throwing the ball in the cold. That's just something that, it probably won't be a big deal, but until he proves it's not a big deal.
You'll get used to it, man. Buffalo weather, it's good to you after you get used to it because those other teams hate it. So
when your first layer of skin freezes over and you're accustomed to it, then you're fine for it.
And you get used to it, you know.
I was quite, I was surprised that the Bills took him in the first round. I thought maybe the Bills would go for a quarterback in the second or third round, especially after they made that trade with St. Louis.
Yeah.
But I've been tweeting about it. I wouldn't mind seeing the Bills draft Ryan Nassib out of Syracuse in the 4th, 5th round and kind of pull a Washington Redskin, what they did last year with drafting RG3 and Cousins. Because the Bills' quarterback position is bare. They have Tavares Jackson. They have Kevin Kolb. Both quarterbacks, they're not long-term quarterbacks. Kevin Kolb may be there for a year. If EJ Manuel proves that he's a starter, they can release him and have Ryan Nassib kind of just learning, taking his time, no pressure. And being this head coach from Syracuse, I think that'd be a perfect fit. And I think the Bills could afford to use a 4th, 5th round draft pick on Ryan because they got those extra picks from St. Louis, especially I believe it's in the 4th round. But, what's your take of Eric Fisher, the first overall pick by the Chiefs?
I think that was a good pick. The type of coach, Coach Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
He like those big guys that can move, and he's a great offensive lineman. Hands down was one of the best offensive linemen in college football this past year. So I think that was a great pick. It was a safe pick for him. So if you want to start with your football team and putting points on the board, you got to start with your line up front. So I think that was a safe pick for him.
Yeah, I think ESPN said it perfectly about this draft. This isn't the draft where you're going to get your franchise player. This is the draft you're going to fill in your holes and your depth and kind of, teams are going to get better from this draft, but you're just not going to see that, all-star, superstar player in this draft. But their offensive linemen, every team needs them or else your quarterbacks are dead. And this is the draft you're going to draft good offensive linemen that no one usually worries about or knows about because it's only the offensive line. They don't get really touchdowns, they don't get stats, but it's the most important position for your quarterback.
It is. They do the dirty work. So.
But, who was your surprise pick? Was it EJ Manuel? Was it somebody else?
A surprise pick? DJ Hayden.
DJ Hayden? And why is that?
Just because of the situation. I don't take nothing from him. He was a great cornerback. But a lot of people would look at his situation and kind of take a look at it. But it was just a surprise. I didn't really expect him to go there. So when they did, it just was a surprise.
For me, it was the Lions pick. I'm not sold on who they took out of BYU. Ziggy. Yeah, Ziggy. Yeah. It's just he came on late from the combine, but you see. I'd be shocked just to have him as a solid career when they just come out of nowhere like that. And sometimes it's almost like a feel-good story. But if I was the Lions and that franchise is, they made the playoffs a couple years ago, but it's not really your cookie-cutter franchise that people want to copy. And I would rather have taken a safer pick than someone a little bit more off the board like Ziggy was.
I don't know. You can kind of go either way with it because I believe, hey man, if you have a good year, you have a good year. Because I was a late bloomer myself.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I'm saying. Some guys in their last year they blossom, or they get that one opportunity and they make they make the best of it. So
yeah.
If it was 1 year it took him to do what he did, hey.
Yeah, but the Lions took Willie Moseley first round, 5th overall. I would have said that was a great pick.
Oh yeah.
I just find they do have Stafford, they have Calvin Johnson, they got Bush for the backfield, so their offense is kind of coming in. They have the identity, but I wish they just would have gone with a safer pick and not gone off the board because they really need to consistently make the playoffs. They're in a tough division. They have the Packers where Aaron Rodgers is going to be there for a long time, making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you have Minnesota, who's kind of we'll see what Christian Ponder does this year. Chicago's has a solid team, so Detroit needs to kind of, improve steadily, or else they're going to always be that 4th place team. And for Lions fans, when the roar that Barry Sanders came on the field, because I think it was their last true player other than Calvin Johnson right now that was a star, and that's a long time ago. That franchise needs something. But moving on to the second round and kind of the big name players that weren't taken the first round, like Geno Smith going to the Jets and Manti Te'o going to the Chargers. What was your take on those two teams picking up those players?
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. Geno Smith, he's a good quarterback. I like him a lot, and that was a safe pick for them. And same with Manti Te'o. They needed an inside linebacker, somebody who's going to come in and be a good leader. You know what I'm saying? He was a great leader over at Notre Dame. So if that's what they were looking for, they grabbed the right guys for it.
Does Rex Ryan know that only one quarterback can be under center for the Jets?
Yeah, I think he knows
Sanchez,
that.
Tebow, Geno Smith, David Guard, Sims. They have 6 quarterbacks right now on the roster. I tweeted yesterday. I don't know if he's going to pull up with a Wildcat format. They'll have them all on the field at one time.
Every last one of them.
Exactly, and you don't know who's going to throw the ball.
Oh yeah.
But so clearly, I'm not really sold on Geno Smith going to the Jets. I don't think the Jets needed Geno Smith. I think, but I do like the pickup of Manti Te'o to the Chargers. It almost reminds me of the Junior Seau, Hawaiian linebacker.
I wanted to say that too, but I didn't. But it's kind of just like that.
It is, and I think it's a perfect fit for him. I think, I tweeted out during the first round of the pick is the last place for Manti Te'o that should go is the New York media market. If the Jets or the Giants picked up Manti Te'o, that'd be terrible for him as a player. With the microscope that he'd be under, just ask Tim Tebow. But in San Diego, John, maybe you can pitch in being our West Coast connection. But I'm assuming the media coverage of the Chargers isn't as much as USC or the 49ers or the Raiders. Oh, I think John went to go make his bacon. We'll ask him when he comes back. But I believe, it's probably the third kind of popular team in California. So it's good for, for Manti to go there, especially with that connection. They're saying, with San Diego being closer to Hawaii, it's not that close, but at least it's closer than the East Coast. So his family could visit. He can always get, there's going to be this first year of the NFL is going to be tough for Manti Te'o because of what he's gone through since the national championship game. Well, everyone knows what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to end it at that. But there's still a lot of big names. Matt Barkley, where is he going to go? This is going to be an interesting fourth to seventh round, especially. There's been names that Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round, so stars do come out on late draft picks. So. And there's always going to, refreshing the screen for Willie Moseley Jr.
Yes.
But, what's kind of, other than seeing where you land, is there any other players that you're kind of interested in for today's draft?
Everybody in WCM. You know what I'm saying? I love my team. So everybody that's a part of the WCM management team, and, you know what I'm saying, of course, my man Steven Means. I'm shooting for all of them. I want all us to be blessed and, serve our purpose in life.
So moving on away from the draft, this week the Jets, again, great franchise, did trade their star Darrelle Revis to the Bucs. Do you think they got enough for him?
I wasn't too. I didn't really get all the details about the trade, but I like the trade in general. I think Tampa Bay needed a cornerback, and of course, it looked like the Jets. Could have took a big loss, but they did draft D. Milner. So he, he's not a Darrelle Revis, as of right now, but they see potential in him. So it's not like they took, too much of a loss.
What the Jets did a good thing trading him out of at least the AFC. The bad thing is week 1, I believe, is Tampa Bay and the Jets in New York. So, he won't have to wait very long to play his old team again. But, I think Revis is a good fit with Tampa. Yeah. Tampa's a team with not a real identity. Josh Freeman, there's questions around him. So, when I remember Tampa, I still remember, Warren Sapp, the running back from Florida State, Dunn. That's still Trent Dilfer. That's the team. That's a team that you still remember. That's been a long years ago. So Tampa really needs to replenish their identity and really get these players in there for a long time. And Revis is a good pick for them.
It is. And
one thing is, so Brian Hartland described the Dolphins' revamped offense as a championship offense. How good do you think the Dolphins' offense is going to be this season?
Championship is a big word. Championship offense is a big word. I like it now. They got they signed Mike Wallace. That's a good stretch down the field. They can stretch the field now with him. He has big play ability. But championship is a big word. I think they might need a little bit more pieces to make that possible.
I think Ryan Tannehill's going into his second year, and I think Heartland kind of forgot that they do have to play Tom Brady and the Patriots twice and get out of that division first.
Yes.
So it's just I agree. That word carries a lot of weight, and if he left that word out, that comment wouldn't make the headlines for it. But I think having that kind of comment always saying that we're good enough to win a championship. But yes, everyone's going to say that. I think draft picks are even saying that on Thursday. How I expect to be back in New York to at the Super Bowl, and it was like a top 5 pick. So if a team's going to flip from 5th worst team one year all the way to a Super Bowl team, that's a large step to take, because there's a lot of good teams out there. San Francisco's going to be a great team next year. Green Bay's going to be a team. You can never turn down Peyton Manning and the Broncos and Tom Brady. There's a lot of good teams you have to beat to get there. And there's teams like Pittsburgh. They missed the playoffs this year, but they're going to be angry. And so I think that word saying that kind of we're good enough to win a championship with our offense. Yeah. Maybe it's true, but not in 2013, 2014.
Yeah, that's all I was saying. Not right now.
No, I think Tannehill still needs time to develop. These quarterbacks that just come in, they're 1 in a million with what RG3 did or with Andrew Luck did. Tannehill will be a good quarterback, but you can't put that pressure on this kid, saying with his offense we expect to be a championship team.
Yeah.
So moving into the NBA, we're kind of almost at the end of round 1 with these series. But how important do you think the LA Clippers series is to Chris Paul's legacy? He's currently 2-4 all time in playoff series.
Ooh. Now when you use the word legacy, what I'm saying? When I think about the word legacy, I think about wins. So as far as a great player, everybody knows how great of a player Chris Paul is, hands down, one of the best point guards to play the game. But when you say legacy, I feel like wins have to be incorporated with that. What I'm saying? Like when somebody speaks about the Chris Paul legacy, you want to hear wins behind that.
Exactly.
So I think this is important for him.
Yeah, I think so, because it's you don't want to get pegged into he was a great regular season player, but couldn't do anything in the playoffs.
Yes.
You get that comment often in hockey. You see a player, Joe Thornton in San Jose, always leads the league in regular season in points, but yet can never carry his team to a championship. Never really can't produce in the playoffs like he can in the regular season. So it is important to Chris Paul, because is he going to be pegged as someone that can play when the pressure's off him, but once the pressure's on him, he can't perform like he can in the regular season?
And as the great player that he is, I feel like he deserves, that. So I think he does have to get those wins.
And I don't think this one series in particular is going to be important for his legacy, but I think overall, I think he's going to need to at least go. He doesn't. I won't go to the extent that he needs to win a championship, but he needs to make it to the finals.
Yes.
If he can make it to the finals within his career, more than once would be better. But there's only one champion per year. So if he doesn't win a championship, there's a lot of great players that never won a championship. Dan Marino in Miami, for example. Being a Bills fan, even though I do respect that Dan Marino was a good quarterback and he never won, never won the Super Bowl. And then the Buffalo Bills get harassed about losing 4 straight Super Bowls. But Jim Kelly did take them. While Frank Reich took him the 1 year, 4 Super Bowls. So you can't put that, because it is a hard feat to do, at least to go that way and make that challenge 4 years in a row. But I think Chris Paul does need to, not this year, but in his career, he needs to at least go to 2 NBA championship finals. Yeah, I don't think this 1 year particularly doesn't have a lot onage on his career, like this one series. But I think overall, I think John just informed me we have a call, so we're just going to see who the caller is.
Okay.
Hello, caller.
Hello, caller. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Frank.
Oh, it's Frank.
How you doing, Frank?
Good. What's going on?
Good. We're just talking about Chris Paul's legacy, and if he needs this NBA series, if he needs this playoff series to kind of help his legacy, because he's currently 2-4.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, he does. His legacy right now really hasn't been much. I think I would equate it a little bit to a lesser version of Carmelo Anthony, like an early Carmelo Anthony career, where they really have had the regular season numbers, but really haven't done much in the postseason. I feel like early in his career, he really didn't have a lot to work around when he was in New Orleans. And now that he's in LA, and he's got Blake Griffin around him, and he's got a bunch of pieces, DeAndre Jordan. Caron Butler, he's got the pieces to really go forward now to start, all right, what is he going to do? Russell Westbrook's out now. Now it's Chris Paul's turn. I think they're the team to come out of the West this year over the Spurs.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So, Willie, you're on Twitter. So Kobe Bryant was pretty active on Twitter during Game 1 of the Lakers-Spurs series, and he kind of went on to say that he won't be tweeting as often for the rest of the rest of the playoffs, where the Lakers right now it only looks to be one more game. What was your take on Kobe's Twitter habits of Game 1?
Kobe, my favorite player.
Like it.
So yeah,
no.
Kobe,
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, no, I actually love Kobe's activity on Twitter. I think it's a brutally aspect of sports that guys, now you're getting an insight into what they think. Like you always see like guys on the floor, they show body language, or guys when they're on the bench, they show body language, or certain ways that they interact with other players. This is Kobe. This is what Kobe does during the game. These are things that he would say to Powell or to Dwight Howard or to Mike D'Antoni during the game. So it's really an interesting aspect that we never really get to see as a fan. You get to see what Kobe's thinking. I actually love what he's doing. David Stern, he was on ESPN Radio Wednesday afternoon talking about this very thing. And he actually stated that he loves it for the game, and he hopes that more players would do this when they're injured. And he wouldn't even be opposed to even bringing in some sort of rule where if you're on the bench or you're not in the locker room that you can actually tweet during the game, kind of like what Kobe did, for injured players. I thought it was great. What did you guys think about it?
It was great to kind of go into his mind, but the only thing, if I was a Laker teammate, 'cause there's some things that kind of stay in the dressing room, that stay on the court, and Kobe was exposing it for his millions of followers to read it, right? So when he's questioning D'Antoni, things like that, it's one thing to do it in the court, on the court, and only the 12 people around you are hearing it. It's another thing for millions of people to kind of hear Kobe, second guessing Mike D'Antoni's, decisions and doing things like that. Kind of comes off negative, because like he's criticizing him. And that was my only issue with it. Is kind of there's some things that happen and that should stay within the team, and by him kind of taking that as what he does on the court with kind of the handful of people that hear him around him, to kind of pretty much exposing what is said and to everyone. That's just my only issue. It was great that he tweeted and we got to go inside his mind, but there's some of the things that he was saying that kind of should have stayed in Kobe's head or on his fingers.
Yeah, same way.
No, that's and Derek, you bring up a really good point about bringing a level of the locker room that really. Obviously, if you're part of a team, obviously whatever stays in the locker room, whatever stays on the bus, whatever stays in the airplane, stays within those guys, and that's kind of been an unwritten rule, whether you're in modified sports, high school sports, college sports, or professional sports. And I think it's interesting. I think it should be a case by case issue, because I feel like Kobe is this one player who, if he does it, it's a little bit different than saying someone like Artest or Metta World Peace. If Metta World Peace were to be the one to get hurt and he was doing it, we may look at it differently. Or if it's a star player or a veteran player, we may look at it differently than we look at possibly a rookie or a second-year player. Like I know Amon Shumpert on the Knicks. I know when he was injured, if he had tweeted some of those things about the offense or whatnot, I would take it with a grain of salt, as if it's as opposed to Jason Kidd getting hurt. And Jason Kidd tweeting out those things. I feel like it's a case by case thing, but I do love that Kobe did that. He may have gone about it a different way or said some different things, but I love the fact that he's willing to interact with the fans and really, this is entertainment. Sports is entertainment. So anything that adds to that, for me, I think it's a good thing.
And one question for you, Frank, being the Knicks, I think you kind of like them, right?
I am a casual Knicks fan.
Yes, a casual Knicks fan. What's the best role for Amari Stoudemire when he returns from injury with this Knicks team?
10 to 12 minutes when Carmelo Anthony is not on the floor. I feel like if you cannot play them you cannot play them together right now. J.R. Smith and Carmelo Anthony are playing along with 2 point guard set, probably the best basketball they've played all year. I know. Last night, J.R. Smith gave a little right hook to Jason Terry. Who knows if he'll be playing for Game 4. Amari said that if everything comes back okay, he will play in the second round. I don't know if he'll be back. But if he does come back, I feel like 8 to 10 to to 12 max minutes when Carmelo Anthony is not on the floor. I feel like he should play the majority of his time in the second and the third quarter, maybe give the team a little bit of a spark off the bench. And I think his minutes should come instead of, a guy like Steve Novak, or maybe, take away some, take away some of Tyson Chandler's minutes. I know obviously he's very important, but he's also battling injury. So anytime you could give him a little bit more of a rest, that may help him in the long run, because the ultimate goal is to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think that Amari definitely would help against a team like the Pacers that are very big. What do you guys think about that?
I agree with you. I don't think you can throw Amari in there for two reasons. The guy won't be in game shape, and the chemistry. This Knick team has been together all year. You can't just throw a personality like Amari Stoudemire, who hasn't really been known to kind of being a team player. This is the same guy that punches out fire extinguishers last in the playoffs. So it's just, you really need to ease him in there. I agree. Just 10 minutes a game around there, and really ease him in there and kind of use him when needed. And don't throw him back there into the starting five. It just, ease him in there. He's just a piece at this point, and it's not Amari Stoudemire's team. It's J.R. Smith, Carmelo Anthony. Those are the players that you're going to go with, and Amari needs to take a back seat, I think. What do you think, Willie?
Same. I feel like Amari, coming off the bench, and just his leadership towards other bench players, and just his energy. That's just about it. Not with Carmelo, because when they do get together, I don't know if you remember when Carmelo had came back from being injured, and then they got back together on the court. It wasn't the Knicks basketball I remember. It wasn't, what I'm saying, when Jeremy Lin and Stoudemire, it just, something about Carmelo and Stoudemire is just, So I feel like,
and Willie, you make a really good point. Willie, you make a really good point, because you talk about the chemistry between Carmelo and Amari, and the biggest thing that I see when watching these games was when Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony played 28 games together, from January 1st to the first week in March or whatever it was. They were without for the majority of that time a healthy Raymond Felton. And I feel like if anyone has watched this Knicks team in the playoffs, you cannot, Raymond Felton does not go unnoticed. I mean, he is playing extraordinary right now in a series where a lot of people thought that Avery Bradley was going to shut him down. And he has controlled the tempo of the game. He's controlled the pace of play. He's really gotten the ball to the basket, and that opens up things for shooters. And he's really done a great job, and you can't really talk enough about what Raymond Felton's been able to do. And I feel like with that 2 point guard set of Jason Kidd and Pablo Prigioni, with that second unit, playing with Amari Stoudemire, Kenyon Martin for defensive help, and then you stick J.R. Smith in there. I don't know of a better second unit in basketball right now, and that's including the Clippers and the Miami Heat. But again, everything's contingent on whether he's healthy or not, and I think that's the big question.
Hey, Willie Moseley Jr., thanks for coming on. You want to give any mentions of your Facebook site, Twitter handle, anything else you're doing online or anywhere else?
Oh, yeah. I just once again to thank you for the opportunity. And, of course, I'd like to shout out WCM.us. Go check that website out. And, of course, my Twitter account at Willie Moseley Jr.
All right. That's easy enough. Well, thank you very much. We're going to take a break, and in the final segment, we'll talk about the struggles of Chicago White Sox slugger Adam Dunn and our weekly rapid fire right here on the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio.
405.
NASCAR is one of the world's most popular sporting events. With more than 75 million fans, it's the number 2 sport on television, and more Fortune 500 companies participate in NASCAR than in any other sport. Preparation before a race can impact who wins. Crew members put in hours of fine-tuning and analysis to eliminate problems that are obstacles to the team's success.
I'm Kevin Harvick. As a NASCAR driver, I know all about regular checkups and early detection to prevent problems. It makes sense to do the same with your health and have regular checkups for prostate cancer.
Every man over the age of 50 should resolve to be screened annually for prostate cancer, as the lifetime risk of developing prostate cancer is 1 in 6 men.
Put the odds in your favor and commit to being screened annually.
Hey sports fans, this is Derek Marquez.
And Frank Nutt from the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 radio.
Just a reminder to check out our live shows on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific.
And CANUSA Sports Desk post-game show, which airs following the Sunday night football game and after any other big sport event.
Check us out on iTunes and download our podcasts of any of our old shows that you've missed.
CANUSA Sports Desk and CANUSA Sports Desk post-game show are available for download shortly after we air.
Check us out on our website at www.canusasd.com. That's CANUSASD.com for our latest blogs.
And you can also follow us on Twitter at CANUSASD for your up-to-date latest sports info and tweets for our upcoming shows.
Hi everybody, this is Geddy Lee for RAD. To many of us, drunk driving is something that other people do. Certainly not one of our friends or relatives would do such a thing. When you see someone who's had too much to drink, about to get into a car, urge them to give up the keys and find alternate transportation. Always choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives, you should too.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Here at the 405, we've got the cure for the Mondays.
Does anyone ever say to you, sounds like someone has a case of the Mondays? No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Fridays.
Next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Sundays.
I'm also going to need you to go ahead and come in on Sunday.
You'll feel better.
Oh. You know what I'm talking about.
And be a better person.
I have people skills. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Make the 405
I believe you have my stapler.
Staple of your week.
Yeah.
You're on the 405.
It's the closing segment of the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 radio. The phone number toll free, 877-297-8022. And let us send it over to Frank.
So probably the biggest acquisition in the offseason this year in Major League Baseball was the acquisition of Josh Hamilton. And, recently, Derek, he was dropped in the batting order. I want to get your thoughts on what you think. What does this mean going forward for the Angels? What do they do next? What is next for Josh Hamilton?
I think it's not as big as people are making it out to be. He dropped from 4th to 5th. It's not a panic button like some people were wondering, having Josh Hamilton not hit cleanup. This is the same team with Mike Trout, Albert Pujols. This is a good offensive team. So if they don't need Josh Hamilton to bat for, they have other pieces to bat in his place. I think it's just the Angels haven't come out the start that they were expecting. Just like the Dodgers. So the two LA teams are not living up to expectations. Almost kind of every team in the Major League Baseball that had expectations going into the season, tongue-in-cheek Toronto Blue Jays. But I just think it'll be fine. It's not a big deal. I don't know why it was even made a story that Josh Hamilton was dropped from 4th to 5th. It's not like he's not playing. He's instead of pretty much starting the second inning, he's batting second. So I don't see much big deal about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I really didn't take much of it either. I thought, it was kind of a non-story for me. If you look at some of the other good teams around major leagues, they make adjustments. The way you start the season off shouldn't be the way you finish because you're really trying to get better and you're trying to get a fit. And, for guys that haven't played together or guys that haven't been in a lineup together before, you really don't know who works best where. Whether who's hot or who has to protect who or, maybe we like this lefty-righty matchup, in the batting order. We want to break up the lefties, break up, some of the switch hitters that they have. I don't really think it's as much of a story. I think, Robinson Cano, probably the best hitter on the Yankees, has been moved. He's batted 2, 3, and 4 this season already, and we're, a month in? So I don't really take much of it. I kind of agree with you. It's really a non-factor for me. I think the bigger story, is the slow start that the two LA teams have really gotten off to. And I could argue right now and say that they're probably the two most talented teams in baseball, and they're probably the two most underachieving teams. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think there's a lot of underachieving teams. Just right now, following the Jays and all their losses, it really kind of upsets me every time they lose. But if I hear kind of, the season's still early, one more time, is just like, hey, enough's enough. I think I tweeted it a couple weeks ago that the players need to kind of take responsibility, and I would like to see them not say that kind of cliche of, the season's still early, it's a 162-game season, and say, yes, we need to play better, we're playing under our capability. And I think, I just don't know, it's kind of interesting that the Jays, the Angels, the Dodgers, all these teams that kind of had these high expectations going into the season are all underperforming. So that's I know. And the Dodgers, they lost Greinke, Chad Billingsley, so they're losing players. The Angels haven't really lost anyone; they're just not playing well. The Jays haven't really lost anyone. They're also just not. It seems to be for the Jays' purpose. It's kind of when there's pitching, there's no batting. When there's batting, there's no pitching. They just can't put everything together. They'll lose games 10-9 and then lose games 1-0.
Yeah. Now, what's the deal with Josh Johnson? I know that he was scratched last night from his start against the Yankees. Is that going to be a prolonging injury, or was that just a one-time thing?
They said it was precautionary, and then if the game was in September, October, he would have pitched. Just tightness in his right tricep. But you don't want it to. I don't mind if it takes him to. If he has to miss a start or two and he'll come back 100%. That's fine. I don't want him pitching injured and then going on the DL because he forced something that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. No, but, I agree 100%.
The one thing I want to ask you is kind of Adam Dunn's season to this year. He's batting under 200 for the White Sox. Do you think it's a sign of what's going to happen to Adam Dunn's career in season 2013?
You know what? We've seen this before, haven't we? I mean, we've seen the poor batting average with a mixture of obviously he hits home runs, but he has a high strikeout count, and he hit a poor batting average, and I just think that with him, this is who he is. He's a low batting average guy that hits home runs. He's a DH in the American League, can't play in the National League, and he is what he is. I mean, there's a lot of teams that would like a big bop in the middle of their lineup. When he's hot, he's great. When he's not, he's going to strike out and he's going to make you outs. What do you think about him?
I agree. I think that's Adam Dunn to a T. Low batting average, high strikeouts, and hits the home run. Yeah. So really, Adam Dunn is having an Adam Dunn type year. Just instead of batting in the low 200s, he's batting in kind of the mid to low 100s. And this season, I'm going to say the season's still early. He'll probably bump up his batting average to under 250, around 225, and hit close to 30 home runs and strike out a boatload of times.
200 times. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Adam Dunn and Mark Reynolds are the same player.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
Adam
Dunn's been healthy too. Reynolds has been hurt off and on for the last couple of years now, and Adam Dunn's, he's been pretty healthy. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I can't really remember an extended period of time that he really missed. So, you look for him to get hot. He's the type of bat that could carry your team, for a few weeks if you may need it. But again, he's going to give you home runs. He's going to strike out a lot, and he's going to have a low batting average. But on a struggling team that's struggling to score runs, he's not a bad bat to have in there.
I agree, and just the White Sox, Alex Rios is doing fine. They have other bats, Paul Konerko, that compensate for Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn is what Adam Dunn. I think J.P. Ricciardi, when he was a manager for the Jays a few years ago, when Adam Dunn, I believe, was in Cincinnati, said, no, we don't have any interest in Adam Dunn, and Adam Dunn took offense to it, but J.P. Ricciardi just said what we know is, yes, Adam Dunn is a good baseball player, but he strikes out a lot, and he doesn't hit for average, and he hits the home run, and certain teams don't need that. Like, if he was on the Jays right now, they don't need that, because they have Edwin Encarnacion, they have Jose Bautista, they have other home run hitters. So, there's a place for Adam Dunn. The White Sox have their players that will get on base for them, and they can't put too much pressure on him when he doesn't hit for average, because that's not the player that Adam Dunn is.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we've seen enough of Adam Dunn to know what he's going to bring to the table and the type of player that he is.
Yeah, it's not like this is an un-Adam Dunn-like trend, because this is what Adam Dunn is. So I don't know why. The only thing is that he's batting a little less than normal, but he'll get that average up.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Quickly, what did you guys think of the owner of the Florida Marlins swapping the starting pitchers for the doubleheader? That's a big brouhaha.
Jeffrey Lurie, I think we have a blog on the CANUSA Sports Desk, so www.canusasd.com about Jeffrey Lurie and the black eye in baseball. So
he's a bad boy, isn't he?
Yes, he's the same one that kind of told Jose Reyes to buy a house in Florida and 2 days later trade him to the Blue Jays. So you can't trust Jeffrey Lurie for anything, pretty much. That's why I don't know what player would sign with with Miami as long as Jeffrey Lurie is involved, personally.
And here's my Manti Te'o answer. The Chargers is the most boring sports franchise on the West Coast, so they could use the freak show, to be honest with you. So, anyway, rapid fire. Number 1, are you in favor of the new 4-team college football playoff? Number 2, how surprised are you at Barcelona's 4-0 loss to Bayern Munich in the first leg of the Champions League semifinal? How would Mike Brown's return to Cleveland impact LeBron James' potential return in 2014? And what are you watching this week?
So I'm going to start. I'm in favor of the 4-team playoff for college football. I hope they increase that to possibly 8 teams. There's nothing that is better than playoff anything, no matter what the sport is. And if there's a chance to stop the dominance of the SEC, I'm all for it. If all 4 playoff teams come into the SEC, then I would be against it. I want to see parity back in college football, and I think that's been missing. I'm going to help John with his German, and it's Bayern Munich. And I was surprised that Barcelona lost 4-0, but then again, the next day, Borussia Dortmund beat Real Madrid 4-1. So both big Spanish teams, Messi and Ronaldo, need to step up in the second leg. So both those wins for the German club sides were huge. I don't think there's be any influence of Mike Brown going to the Cavaliers and LeBron James going back to Cleveland. I think the chances of that happening, I have a better chance of suiting up for the Cavaliers than LeBron James. Maybe when LeBron is has at the end of his career, he'll go back, but even that, I don't think it's going to happen. And I'll be watching some NHL playoff hockey. It's going to start this week. Frank?
Yeah, no, so as far as the college football, definitely in favor of it. Anytime you get it, we'll get a better idea of who's the true champion. I felt like in the past, it's difficult to, it's really difficult to have a national championship game when it's just, some guys are voting for it and those teams get in. I think we'll get a better idea of who's the actual national champion now, so I like it. As far as the Bayern Munich win over Barcelona, I was surprised, but I definitely look now for Barcelona to come out in the second leg and really put a hurting on their next matchup. As far as Mike Brown goes, I like the signing. I don't really get it. You fired him for a reason. Now you bring him back. The only thing to me that's going to have an impact on where LeBron James goes is the rings. Kyrie Irving, if they can get another free agent to go with Tristan Thompson and some more of their young players, they may be an enticing spot for him, being from Akron. But I think if he keeps winning championships in Miami, he's not going anywhere. And then, of course, what am I watching this week? I'm going to watch the start of the NHL playoffs. My Rangers got in the 8th seed. I look for them to make some noise. And hopefully the Knicks take care of Boston Celtics tomorrow at 1 Eastern for the first sweep and the first wins in 13 years since 2000. So I'm really looking forward to those two.
You guys always punk me with those foreign team names, don't you?
Well, I thought you were fluent in German.
No, not a chance. Anyway, touche, baby. That's it for the CANUSA Sports Desk. Thank you, Derek.
No problem, John. Don't forget, next week we have Toronto Maple Leaf prospect.
I got
Tyler
that right
Biggs
here. I was going to read that, man. Tyler Biggs, Toronto Maple Leafs prospect. Thank you, Frank, wherever you are. Thanks for checking in with us.
Right. Take care, guys.
All right, so it's the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio. We're back next Saturday morning. Don't forget, we're on iTunes. We are on CANUSASD.com, the podcast, the blogs, and the whole 9 yards. So until next week, we'll be talking to you later.